values at any time. What we run into a lot is that customers in the cultivation space, they say, well, we're going to do $3 million in sales, so we have $1 million of plants. Well, you really don't have $1 million of plants at any one given time. You may have all along through the growing cycle, there may be different sides or different values there. So what we tell people is take a snapshot. If you had a loss in any given day, what would you have inside of that facility? You're going to have to take into account some days you're going to have a really high value of finished product because it's ready to go and move forward, and some days you're going to have really low. So you're going to want to find that kind of happy medium for you as a customer that would make the most sense and where you feel comfortable laying off that risk.
Why do you have to have a central alarm system if you have 24/7 security guards? It doesn't cover your mold, your fungus spores, your vermin. So I always get asked that question, does it cover mold? Does it cover the vermin? Does it cover any dust mites? So I know that's an exclusion on the policy, correct?
That is correct, yeah. What we're moving towards, and as the industry continues to grow, as the insurance goes along with it, we want to be able to offer those coverages, but the industry is just so young and new, and there's so many new technologies coming out. Every time I go to a cultivation facility, they're always a little bit different than the last one I was just at. And so there's a lot of consistencies in the growing process, but there are also a lot of differences. And we, as an insurance industry, are trying to keep up and figure out what are the best practices for this. And as we go forward here, I can foresee in the future where those coverages would be available, but as we sit here today, they are not, to my knowledge, available.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Now, when we're talking about crops and your finished product, your harvested product, is there coverage for transporting the product from one facility to the dispensary? And if there is there coverage also for the monies when payment's been received? Is there coverage for that? And do they have to have security measures in place?
There is coverage available for transporting the product from your cultivation facility or your dispensary. And even if you are a delivery service you can purchase coverage as well. It varies. You can buy it as low as $2,500 per claim up to $25,000 or even $50,000 per claim. In terms of security protocols in there, we are working towards kind of standardizing things. Every state is a little bit different. So in your state of Colorado, where you have to go in and you're making a delivery, you're filling out a manifest, that's different than every other state. So again, because the states are all different, we as an industry are trying to keep up with it. We currently want them to have the product when they're transporting it, not in the same compartment as the driver is. So in the trunk would be the preferable method, in a container of some sort that has tamper-proof tape wrapped on it, whatever it may be, something along there. We don't currently require that they have any type of tracking system in place inside the car or vehicle, but I can definitely foresee when people start to make larger requests, as we're starting to see in certain states, for 6 figures of product being transferred from cultivation facility to dispensary on a more regular basis. I can absolutely start to see those become requirements over time here. In terms of cash, there is some availability for coverage for cash during transportation. It just depends on the policy form and where you're going and who you're using to get that.
So that would be more or less a crime policy for employee theft. Say you're concerned about the employees, and you definitely need to screen your employees before you let them in the car to accept the monies and, of course, the product. So that would be what we call in the insurance industry a crime policy. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. We trust our employees, but, it's easier to kind of help them avoid temptation by putting some policies and procedures in place. And that way, then it's a lot easier and straightforward, and you don't have many issues to deal with, we found.
Thank you, Patrick. If you are transporting the product in your own vehicle, is there any special equipment that needs to be on the vehicle, or is there a requirement for any? Now, we touched on the tracking device. Is there any discount if you do have a tracking device and you monitor these vehicles as they leave your facility?
There is no discount today. That's available right now. One thing is, if you are having their employees use their own vehicles, you want to make sure that you've added non-owned auto insurance coverage to your policy. Simply because if that person happens to get into a car accident, they're going to sue that the registered driver of the vehicle, and if they find out, once they will, that they're on company business, they're obviously going to sue the company as well. And if you don't have the non-owned endorsement on your policy, you're going to be left out hanging, and it's relatively inexpensive for a pretty high limit. The other thing we do is if you are going to have people that are going to be driving for you, you require motor vehicle or MVR reports for them just to see who they are. It doesn't mean you don't have to let them drive, but you at least have an understanding if somebody's got a lot of speeding tickets or accidents or whatever it may be. You know that before you kind of let them drive on your behalf. And then lastly, of course, is if you are going to let people drive on your behalf and use that, require that they have insurance. I can't tell you exactly what limit to require, but we feel comfortable. At least at $100,000 limit would be probably the preferable one, but we know that not everybody can afford that limit, so you need to kind of really make sure that there is an insurance policy in place on that vehicle that the person's driving.
Thank you so very much again, Patrick. We need to take a break, but when we come back, we'll be speaking with Patrick McManaman of Cannabis regarding insurance on your transportation, power outages, and equipment breakdown. Thank you so much. We'll be back.
Grassroots Marketing will return after we generate traffic to our generous sponsors.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct! Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
Your connection to quality cannabis insurance services is spelled Kaercher. That's Karcher Insurance. We have worked with ventures like cannabis for over 60 years. We're proud to represent over 50 companies with tailor-made cannabis plans for owners just like you to insure your product, your plants, and your pursuits. Kaercher spells out their full-service insurance services ranging from commercial to bonds, to personal, from life to health, and more. Contact the team at KarcherInsurance.com and let our experience work for you. That's Kaercher Insurance.com.
Contact Karen and the team at Karcher Insurance at 1-844-421-3560. That's 844-421-3560.
Growing green to generate more green.
Hello to all you happy herbalizers, smiling trippy hippies, and everyone who believes in freedom and tolerance. This is The Grow Show, and I'm Kyle Cushman.
From food to fuel, from remedy to resource.
Welcome my guest, Ed Rosenthal, the guru of ganja. Let me ask you, right now I hear your lighter clicking. Are you smoking indoor or are you smoking sun-grown?
What am I smoking? I'm smoking concentrate.
Way to get out of the answer there. So you're truly like the king, right? You just clap your hands and somebody brings you a bowl and you're all set, right?
I wish that were the case.
The Grow Show with Kyle Cushman, only on CannabisRadio.com.
We're back with more motivating marijuana monetization insights on Grassroots Marketing, only on CannabisRadio.com.
I have with me Patrick McManaman of Cannabis, and we were just discussing the auto insurance and the transportation of the product. Welcome back again, Patrick. What we want to touch on now is equipment breakdown. What does that cover, and when does the coverage kick in?
So in the current marketplace right now, with the different products out there, we can kind of just talk in general terms because it's hard to tell you what everyone's policy is going to cover because they're all written a little bit differently, not knowing what company they're on. But typically, an equipment breakdown is going to be kind of a direct physical damage to the covered equipment, so mechanical breakdown, rupture, bursting, those types of things that are generated usually by electrical current, or it could be an explosion or something like that, cracking of the pipe. It's not going to cover things that are normal wear and tear, rust, those types of issues. The motor burned out in the first 6 months of that those are warranty issues. Those are not equipment breakdowns. These are going to be external forces caused a problem to that piece of equipment. And so, it will cover the cost to replace that piece of equipment, and then you start to get into, okay, what's the business interruption loss? So because that HVAC system suffered a lightning strike on the top of my building. It burned out. I couldn't get a new one in there, and then now I have my plants are dying or whatever it is. Those things are kind of, it's hard to kind of give you an overall. You'd have to really discuss those on a one-off basis as to what would happen. But when we talk about kind of the equipment breakdown, it's really going to be focusing on those equipment things, the HVAC system, the electrical panels. Your building got struck by lightning, or the transformer got struck by lightning. It's fried all of your wires in your building. You got to replace all of those things. Those are things that are going to be covered by equipment breakdown.
That kind of leads us into the next question, which would be is if there is a power outage, say a vehicle hits an electrical pole that knocks out the power on the block, and your facility is one that just happens to be on that block, and it takes the company, say, several days to repair the electrical poles and the outlets and everything. Is there coverage for that? And we touched on business income. When does that kick in, and how much do we have coverages that offer different amounts for your business?
So business interruption, those types of things, in that scenario, is it possible that you would have a claim that you could pay because, down the street the power got knocked out and they couldn't get to you? You're normally going to have a deductible that's going to be potentially a time element. So it could be 48 hours, could be 72 hours, whatever it would be. So the company's going to say after 48 hours is when we would come in and start to worry about it. In the first 48 hours, it's on you as the customer. So if your plants are going to die in the first 48 hours and you can't do anything about it, then potentially there's not going to be any type of coverage for that. You'd have to be able to bring in some type of backup generation, keep them on for a period of time, and allow something to get to that point. Contingent-wise, again, is it possible that those covered? Of course it is, just depending on the coverages you bought. There's an endorsement called off-premises business interruption. So if that scenario, the lightning strike or the car knocked out the power, that's an off-premises power loss. Those types of things could be covered under those. Again, it's not a standard coverage you get in there. You have to go and ask for it. It's probably not something that every business owner would have. But definitely the larger business owners would be really focused on making sure that they have those things in there or seeing what the cost is to get those and if they're even available. There are currently, I know in some of the policies, contingent business income that's in there. It's a small amount, maybe $10,000 or $20,000 is the limit that they're putting in there for those types of things, and that's pretty much all you can collect on them.
That's important for these large businesses because I'm asked that question a lot, and they have a lot of backup generators in case of something such as a lightning strike or, heaven forbid, a car takes out a power line. So these are things that are asked a lot in this industry. What we need to do is focus on making sure that you have generators that can back up so your plants don't lose any of the drip systems or the electrical power so you can continue on. Why do you have to have a central alarm system if you have 24/7 security? Most people have armed guards that are patrolling, but in order for the theft to be included on the policy, you have to have an alarm system. Can you tell me why it is required if you have the 24/7 security?
Humans make mistakes, and the industry likes to look and think that alarm systems, being the mechanical instruments that they are, hard kind of computer systems, are not going to be making mistakes. And you may have 24/7 security, but if you're on one side of the building and somebody breaks in on the other, you have no clue that happens. I've been to many cultivation facilities that are enormous, a couple 100,000 square feet the location covers. And so even if you had one or two people there, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to see people coming in and out and causing problems. And if you get engaged by one of these people that are breaking in, or your security guard gets engaged by one of these people and, God forbid, something happens to them, there's no other backup for it. And so it's a requirement that it's on, that it's there, that they know it's operating, it's operational. We've had many claims that have been paid because, they had their alarm system in, and if they wouldn't have had the alarm system on and operating, they wouldn't have been paid.
Do you have to have the fire station included in the central station or just the police department?
I don't believe you have to have the fire station. I believe it's just the police department. That's
good to know, to clarify for our listeners. When you sign up for a policy, you have to agree to an inspection. So they sign off that an inspection is required? When do inspectors come out, and what are they exactly looking for?
An inspector should come out to the property approximately 30 to